It was February 1959, deep in the Ural Mountains of Soviet Russia. 9 young hikers prepared for an expedition that would test their endurance and courage. Led by a bright and determined man named Igor Dyatlov, the group loaded their heavy packs, laughing as the morning frost bit their cheeks. The snow was deep, the air sharp, and yet their spirits were unshakable.
What was that sound?
They were students, engineers, athletes, dreamers,
I don't know, but it's getting
bound
closer.
together by friendship and adventure. As they trekked through the frozen wilderness, the world around them seemed peaceful. They sang, took pictures, and built fires at night, their laughter echoing between the pine trees. Each journal entry they wrote carried hope, excitement, and not a trace of fear. But on the 3rd day, the weather began to turn. The sky grew darker, winds stronger. Still, they pushed forward, determined to reach their goal. Mount Otorten, which in the language of the local Mansi tribe meant, "Don't go there." By the evening of February 1st, they pitched their tent on a steep, wind-swept slope, far from shelter. The wind screamed across the
What was
snow
that sound?
as they shared a simple meal inside, the tent
I don't know, but it's
glowing
getting
dimly
closer.
against the storm. They laughed quietly, unaware that something
This is the life,
was
isn't it?
watching. As night deepened, strange lights flickered across the distant sky, faint, glowing orbs dancing above the mountain ridge. The group noticed, confused but curious. Before retreating into their tent, the temperature dropped below -20 degrees Celsius. Snow piled against the tent walls. Then, sometime after midnight, something happened. The tent was ripped open from the inside. Panic, terror. The hikers fled barefoot, half-dressed, into the blizzard. No one screamed. Only the roar of the storm filled the night. Days later,
These cuts, they
rescuers
weren't made by
found the
any animal.
campsite. The tent
No, this
stood
was
half
deliberate.
buried in snow, slashed apart, belongings untouched. Their food, boots, and jackets were still inside, as if they'd run for their lives. A trail of barefoot prints led into the forest. There, under a tall cedar tree, 2 bodies were found, frozen, nearly naked, hands burned as though they had tried to climb. Nearby, broken branches showed a desperate struggle. As searchers continued, they found 3 more, sprawled across the snow as if crawling back toward the tent. Their faces were twisted in agony. It took weeks to find the last 4. They were discovered deep in a ravine, buried beneath the snow. One had a fractured skull. Another had her ribs crushed inward, as though struck by something impossible. One woman was missing her tongue. Others carried traces of radiation no one could explain. The investigators were baffled. Their camp showed no sign of attack, no footprints except their own. The only clue was fear, frozen into every face. In the end, the Soviet report called it a compelling natural force. But nothing natural could do what was done to those 9 souls.